The cities of the Indus were made of brick and order. But beneath them, quite literally, everything rested on the soil. Agriculture wasn't just an occupation, it was the foundation. Long before carts rolled through stone streets or craftsmen shaped beads in their workshops, there were hands in the earth, planting, tending, harvesting. The land gave generously. Wheat, barley, and millet rippled in the breeze, fed by rivers that rose with the monsoon. Cotton fields flowered white, the earliest threads of a textile tradition that would one day circle the world. It wasn't luck, it was labor and design. Floods were welcomed, channeled through carved canals. Fields were shaped with care, boundaries set with stone and memory. They didn't wait for rain, they prepared for it, and when the harvest came, they brought more than food. They brought time for some to become potters, others to become builders or traders. Because surplus meant choice. And choice, that's what makes a civilization rise. This was not a world of scarcity. It was a system, quiet, calculated, and enduring. In every sheaf of grain, in every cotton thread, was the heartbeat of the Indus economy. They didn't just grow crops, they grew possibility. The fields were green, the canals carved, but the rhythm of Indus farming beat not only in human hands, but in hoof and horn. Domesticated animals were everywhere, not just background life, but partners in the work of survival. Cattle roamed the pastures, heavy-bodied and slow, yet strong enough to pull the ancient plows through river-fed soil. Water buffalo waded through flooded fields, calm and patient, helping where carts or people could not. Goats and sheep clung to the margins, low maintenance, endlessly useful. They gave milk, meat, hides, and wool, woven into cloth or wrapped into everyday needs. Even dogs had their place, companions, herders, guardians at the edge of settlement life. And the ox, massive, deliberate, was the muscle behind the mission. Hitched to wooden carts or plows, it helped transform a subsistence life into surplus. These animals weren't trophies. They were the quiet engines of an agricultural society. Their bones were tools. Their hides became tents or sandals. Their presence made possible what hands alone could never finish. The Indus people lived not above nature, but within it. In the tread of oxen and the soft bleating of goats was a story of coexistence, etched into the mud and memory of daily life. They farmed the land, but they built their world with animals at their side. The fields fed the people, but it was the workshops that brought their world to life. Behind quiet brick walls, a different rhythm echoed, not of hooves or harvest, but of tools against stone, of beads being strung, of cloth being spun. Here, the Indus Valley revealed another face, not just farmers, but artisans. Potters turned red clay into vessels, sturdy, symmetrical, often painted with delicate black designs. Kilns glowed at the city's edge, their heat hardening the ordinary into the essential. Beadmakers worked with carnelian and agate, shaping stones into perfect, polished gems, tiny objects of trade, beauty, and meaning. Metalworkers melted copper and cast bronze, hammered gold into ornaments, and shaped tools as durable as they were elegant. Spindles turned, threads stretched, fingers moved in practiced repetition. These were not scattered crafts. Workshops clustered near homes, tools laid out with intention, a system, not a hobby. The beauty wasn't just in the objects, it was in the organization behind them. From shell bangles to bronze chisels, from glazed beads to painted jars, the artisans of the Indus left behind no written name, but they signed every piece with skill. Civilization is not just about what is built, it's about what is made, and the hands that make it. In the land where artisans shaped beads and farmers sowed grain, another layer held it all together, a hidden system of order, carved in stone. Standardization. Across a civilization that stretched for over 1,000 kilometers, from Dolavira to Harappa, the weight stayed the same. Perfectly cubical, cut from chert or limestone, small enough to fit in a palm, precise enough to build trust. These weren't random stones. Each one followed a set ratio, part of a decimal-based system. Long before decimal points had names, scales marked for measurement sat beside stalls and workshops. Merchants and traders used them not just to weigh grain or gold, but to ensure fairness, because trade without trust is chaos. And the Indus Valley did not deal in chaos. That shared calibration, across vast distances, meant something deeper, a shared system, a shared logic, perhaps even a shared authority guiding the flow of goods. They didn't leave behind scrolls or proclamations, but they left weights, dozens of them, matching from city to city like pieces of a silent code. And through that code, the people of the Indus created an economy that was not just productive, but principled. It wasn't just what they made, it was how precisely they measured it. Across the quiet lanes of the Indus cities, beneath the rooftops and courtyards, something moved. Not just people, but goods and ideas. The Indus Valley was not a collection of isolated towns. It was a network, humming with trade. City spoke to village, village spoke to river, river carried everything. Timber floated downstream from forested edges. Lapis lazuli, a vivid blue stone, made its way from distant highlands. Shells arrived from coastal shores, polished and carved deep inland by artisans who had never seen the sea. From the salt plains of Gujarat to the bustling streets of Harappa, goods moved with quiet purpose, on carts, on foot, and along the river's steady flow. And it wasn't just what they moved, but how seamlessly they did it. Same bricks, same weights, same tools, a civilization woven together, not by conquest, but by connection. At rest stops and river banks, traders exchanged not just goods, but stories, ideas, and traditions. There were no gold-throned kings to command this system, only shared habits, shared needs, and perhaps something deeper, a shared understanding. The Indus Valley did not need borders, because it had bridges, bridges of trade, trust, and movement, a civilization in motion, not loud, not written, but profoundly connected. The rivers carried goods from village to city, but some journeys went farther. Much farther. From the heat of the Indus Valley, trade routes stretched outward like veins of ambition, toward Mesopotamia, the Persian Gulf, Central Asia, and beyond. There were no passports, no flags, just merchants with bundles of cotton cloth, sacks of beads, and stones the color of fire and ocean. Indus cotton, among the first ever spun, was soft, strong, and prized. Carnelian beads, polished to perfection, sparkled across necks in cities far from home. In return came silver, tin, perhaps even wool from highland herders. And yet, through all this distance, Indus goods remained unmistakable, stamped with unique seals, packaged in uniform jars, measured with standard weights. They didn't just send products, they sent identity. Across deserts, across seas, Indus traders left no names, but they left fingerprints. On Mesopotamian tablets, the word Meluha appears, a name some scholars believe was theirs, a whisper of a faraway people who moved quietly, but reached far. This was not empire, it was exchange. A civilization not defined by conquest, but by connection. They built no armies to reach the world, they built trust. And in the silence of the archaeological record, it is their trade that still speaks loudest. Trade may begin with goods, but it travels by movement. And in the Indus Valley, movement was an art of its own. On dry roads and dusty plains, bullock carts creaked forward, wooden wheels turning slowly under the weight of cotton, grain, or copper. Simple, efficient, ubiquitous. On footpaths that wound between towns and villages, caravans moved with quiet rhythm, led by herders, traders, and families carrying stories as much as supplies. And then there was the river, the great highway of the ancient world. Flat cotton boats drifted downstream, guided by current and pull, laden with jars, textiles, and time. But perhaps the greatest surprise lies by the sea. At Lothal, near the Gulf of Comhit, archaeologists uncovered a dockyard, cut from stone, drained by tide, designed for something astonishing: organized maritime trade. This was no myth. This was infrastructure, built to launch boats from land to sea. And in the cities, they left behind tiny models, terracotta carts with simple axles and painted wheels. Not toys, but echoes of daily life. Proof that transportation wasn't rare, it was routine. They didn't just build cities. They built systems, to move, to connect, to reach. Because in the Indus Valley, movement wasn't just how goods traveled. It was how civilization flowed. In the quiet order of the Indus Valley, there was no currency, no coin, no king's image pressed into metal. Instead, they were seals. Small, carved, silent, but powerful, made from steatite, a soft stone hardened by fire. These seals were engraved with care. Their surfaces held more than decoration, they held identity. A humped bull, perfectly balanced. A tiger mid-stride, a unicorn, elegant, impossible. And always, the script, a delicate symbols flowing like whispered thought. We still cannot read it, but we can feel its purpose. Seals were likely pressed into soft clay, on jars, on bundles, on documents long lost to time. They marked ownership. They signaled origin. They spoke for the merchant who sent them. Each was both art and function, a personal stamp in a world without signatures. A barcode without technology. They were found in cities, towns, and even far-off lands, because wherever Indus goods went, the seal went with them. In these few square centimeters of stone, a civilization left its trace, not through kings, but through trade. Not through monuments, but through marks. Their economy didn't just move by weight and measure, it moved by trust, sealed with stone, and remembered in silence. The Indus didn't speak loudly, but they left their name pressed into clay.